Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to my book garden. Actually, welcome to my plushie garden. And you might notice something in the background. I got my Halloween things. I know it's early, but I just wanted to try them out. And they're up, and I already have them, so they're just gonna be there in the background for like 2 months. It is what it is. But yeah. Welcome to the first stream of book 3 of The Disabled Tyrant and His Beloved Pet Fish. One second. I have to turn this off. Okay. But yeah, hello Chi Chi Kiki and hello Cookielicious. How are both of you today? I am doing well. I'm a little sore. I've basically been in motion since like 7 o'clock this morning. So a little sore, but it's a good I got things done sore. So I'll take it. How about you? How are you doing? Good. But yeah. I actually finally made a list of things to mention at the beginning because I realized I forget things. So this is not sponsored by Seven Seas Entertainment. If they ever want to, I would love to be sponsored by Seven Seas, but I really don't think that's going to happen anytime soon or anytime ever. But that's the dream. Anyway. As you could tell, this is a pretty chill stream. I will be chatting with the chat. I will be chatting with the book. Might make side references or even look something up if I'm a little confused or intrigued. So if that's not really your thing, maybe stick around, see. You might be surprised and might enjoy it. But if not, that's okay too. We all like what we like, and that's perfectly okay. As long as we're not being hateful about it. Like, that's a line. But oh yes, I will do my best on pronunciations. But I am not fluent. So some of the names, some of the places might be mangled. I'm doing my best, but it happens. If I'm saying it really wrong, feel free to like send a comment and just be like, hey, I noticed you were struggling with this. Here's how you say it. I've had people do that. And all that. Are you watching Kill to Love? I have not heard of that one, but I will look that up. That sounds interesting. Is that a K-drama or an anime? And hello, Annika. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. It's a new uncensored historical Chinese BL adapted from a Danmei novel, Eternal Silence in Mountains. I will definitely look that up. I don't know how soon. Maybe look into it this weekend, but that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very ready for the long weekend. My friend and I, maybe someone else too, are going to go see Jaws in theaters. Which I'm like, okay, but I haven't seen that friend in a while, so I was like, yeah, okay. I can go see Jaws. Why not? But yeah. I'm trying to think. What else is new? Nothing really. Oh, okay. So you've watched the first episode and like the actors, but can't make heads or tails of the plot yet. Okay, right. Thank you, Cookielicious. That's kind of how I felt a little bit about Word of Honor, because that first episode it just like throws you right in. But I ended up loving Word of Honor, so thank you. I'll add that to my to watch list. But yeah. So, since it is a first book episode, we have a blind box. You missed a llama fashion show? I'd be annoyed if I missed that, but I don't even... Where even would you find a llama fashion show? Like, at a carnival? Or, like a county fair? Hello, Peacock Pages. And yeah, I'll definitely check out that show. It's at the State Fair. I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay. Time to get out my trusty knife. Let's see, which one should we aim for? We already have this one. We have this one. We have this one up here. No, it's down here. They look alike. I kind of like this little guy, the ink bamboo. Llama all obstacle courses. Man. Dressed up as Dory and her llama dressed as a reef. That's hilarious. Okay. All right. I'm trying not to look at the card. Even if I don't, like, they're all adorable, but thank you. Let's see. Whoa, this one looks really cool. Oh, this is so cool. Look at, like, all right, focus. Look at that. I don't know quite what this one is, but it's really cool. Like, I love the colors. Like, it's... Yeah, probably a cloud. What is it? Perpetuous jades. Oh, it's jade. That's so cute. Perpetuous jades. It's really pretty. I like it. It does look like a cloud. There's definitely a cloud there. I really like this series. Oh, it makes sense because, like, a jade charm, and then it has the tassel. Come on. You see what it is. It almost has like a rope feel to it, which is even cool. That's really cool. All right. I think I'm going to put it next to this buddy. Let's scoot you over just a little. There we go. All right. So then this will be our bookmark for book 3. Okay. Close the knife. Yeah, and it took me a second. I was like, wait, is it a cloud? What is it? Cute. It's cute. That's all that matters. Oh, it's stuck again. Come on. No. Struggle. I do think Liu would have definitely gone with Prince JIng even without the mission. I think that he has the dedication and has really started to see him as an actual person. So I do believe he would have gone along with, even without the mission. But that is also just my opinion. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Our start time will be, I'm going to give it 10:30. All right. So last time, Liu was put on the, oh, yes, the pictures. Almost forgot. So this is the cover, which is absolutely gorgeous. Love all the colors. And then inside, we have an extended image of this. We have like the minister too in the background. I'm going to show you, even though it's a little bit of a spoiler. So, good things are coming in this book. All right. You'll have to wait and see. All right. Quick sip. All right. Chapter 77. Fish wants to do it. Liu's days passed chaotically as he did his best to protect his secret fish identity. He had never spent such a long time traveling before, so whenever they passed by a village, Prince JIng always stopped a few days at the local inn and took Liu out to shop and eat a couple of hot meals. After Liu was rested, they would continue their journey. I love that he's kind of turned it into partially a sightseeing trip for Liu. Even though it's like a serious, you are going to the border to settle unrest and everything. Because they were on the road, they carried a lot of travel rations with them. At first, Wang Gonggong was able to prepare a lot of side dishes and meat-filled pancakes, but they were gone within a few days. Liu quickly grew tired of the rations, but luckily for him, he could transform back to a fish. He had no problem eating fish food every day. Sometimes Prince JIng would take him out to eat meat too, and then he'd order Wang Shi to purchase snacks for Liu in the villages they passed. Liu was being taken care of so well, he felt like traveling was barely a hardship. As I said, it's basically like they're taking a, as they would call it on the Hobbit thing, a walking trip. Just going on a vacation, like, we'll see the sights, we'll travel around. Once they were truly in the middle of nowhere, they camped out a few times. A grand tour. That's a better way to put it. Thank you, Truffle. Once they were truly in the middle of nowhere, they camped out a few times. Liu gave up his comfortable carriage to sleep in the thick furs together with Prince JIng. The moment Liu got over his own mental block, he became absolutely shameless and even started begging for intimacy, insisting that being out in the wild has its own sort of charm. Unable to convince him otherwise, Prince JIng always ended up giving in. The two of them would hold each other, listening to the howling wind outside the tent as they felt each other's racing heartbeats. If only Li Gonzi didn't have to end each encounter by rushing back to the carriage, half-dressed and panicking. He's like, shit, the alarm's going off! I gotta go! Where are my pants? Several parts of their journey took them through the isolated wilderness. In his boredom, Liu discovered a new skill. When he tried hunting for wild vegetables on the mountainside, he found his success rate was 100%. He even tried digging up sweet potatoes, a task he completed with equal perfection. Oh, you're welcome. Wang Shi returned empty-handed, but Liu's arms were piled so full he could barely hold all the vegetables. Wang Shi couldn't be more envious. When they passed by a river, Liu proved to be just as lucky at fishing. He just stood by the shore where the water wasn't too rapid and gently patted the rock there, and shrimps, crabs, and loaches would come teeming out, occasionally joined by other fish. Liu didn't eat fish anymore, so he'd return all the fish to the water, but the shellfish could all be eaten with just a little boiling, retaining their natural flavor. Wang Shi was pleased and excited, but still insisted on boiling it for him, refusing to allow Liu to get involved. Liu was confused. He'd cooked back at the manor, and Wang Shi had never stopped him then, so why was he stopping him now? Quick-witted Wang Gonggong suddenly had nothing to say. It was actually because he was afraid Li Gonzi's cooking skills would ruin all the food. But His Highness had ordered them not to comment on the Gonzi's cooking skills, so no matter how many times Liu asked, Wang Shi's voice was shut tight and he never let anything slip. But it wasn't a big deal. Liu quickly pushed those thoughts to the back of his mind. To him, being able to find ingredients to cook with was much more useful than being able to cook. He finally noticed that his luck was unbelievable when it came to finding food. This was when Liu finally understood that the well-fed and well-clothed stat that he'd been given a buff on wasn't about his cooking skills. It was about his ability to find food. Perhaps in the future it would affect clothing too. Thinking back on it now, other than the time he'd purposefully starved himself, he'd never really gone hungry. Liu was torn between complaining that the fish scamming system picked such weird places to give him good luck and celebrating that he'd never starve as a koi. 2 months later, they finally arrived at a small village on the western border, Luofeng Village. This was the temporary home the Emperor had handpicked for Prince JIng. Thank God the name is easy to say, because I have a feeling I'm going to be saying Luofeng Village a lot. The village head had received the secret order a while ago and had a dwelling already prepared for Prince JIng. It was apparently the best manor in the village and had been cleaned from top to bottom. However, when Prince JIng took Liu to see it, although the village head had referred to it as a manor, it was just a 2-courtyard home. So that's standard dwellings at this time usually had 3 courtyards, while princes' manors might consist of several standard homes linked together with additional gardens and ponds. So it's pretty small in comparison to what Prince JIng is used to, but it's probably the biggest thing they had. Compared to what they were used to, this was practically cramped. There you go. Of course, Liu usually stayed in his tank, so he didn't care much about the size of the house. Prince JIng rubbed the fish's head silently. As far as he was concerned, anywhere smaller than his manor was a downgrade for Xiao Yu. Due to the distance, they also hadn't been able to bring the crystal fish tank along, so Prince JIng was forced to make do with a few of the smaller ones. He thought this was a downgrade too, even though Xiao Yu didn't care at all. It's like, I couldn't bring my fancy fish tanks because they're too heavy to bring on what's basically a border march. Prince JIng had brought along plenty of guards as well as a few servants, but they wouldn't all fit in the 2-courtyard dwelling. Thinking quickly, Wang Shi bought the properties on either side. Now there was enough space for everyone. Though the residence had been cleaned, it was a little outdated. Wang Shi wanted to renovate it slightly and expand the main courtyard, but Prince Jing shook his head. They were here on the Emperor's orders. It would be best not to act outside of those orders. That's the fair point. As soon as Liu arrived at his new home, he took a look around, strolling along until he spotted his tank in Prince Jing's room. This room was a lot smaller than the one in the prince's manor, and all the furnishings were quite ordinary. There was barely even enough space to turn around. Liu had a feeling it would be a hassle to transform here. He was just about to protest when Prince Jing asked Wang Shi to prepare the room next door for Li Gonzi. Is Li Gonzi not staying with your highness? To Wang Shi, this was unbelievable. During the whole trip, his master had never ridden in the carriage, riding on horseback so that Li Gonzi could have the carriage to himself. Wasn't that enough? Now he was living apart from Li Gonzi? Was he that into the idea of Li Gonzi being pregnant? Prince Jing leveled Wang Shi with a look. It was too small here. Li Gonzi wouldn't be able to sleep well. Originally, the room next door had been reserved for Prince Jing's study. Since Prince Jing was adamant, though, Wang Shi could hardly protest, so he quickly had it cleaned up for Liu. Liu was very embarrassed, but he felt he couldn't say anything either. It was his fault for keeping such an unspeakable secret. Because their new home was so small, Prince Jing laid down some new rules. There was no need for the servants who came with him to wait on him at night. The guards were still obliged to continue with their jobs as normal, but everyone else was only tasked with taking care of themselves. Li Gonzi, I'm leaving your highness to you, Wang Shi kept going over reminders with Liu. Prince Jing was sending Wang Gonggong away too, so he had to ask Liu to handle it in his stead. Liu agreed, blushing, but his heart was beating wildly. Okay, so before we even get there, this almost seemed like a sob moment. I now have a sob count over here. So it is ready for book 3, and I've got book 3 marked for yeet count because we're starting over each book. Okay, continuing. After Wang Shi and the others left, Liu poured some hot water into a clean copper basin, a little clumsily. After he'd thought it over, he added a little bit of cold water to make it a mild temperature and brought it over to Prince Jing. Your Highness, why don't you wash your hands and face first? Liu didn't really know how to take care of other people, so he just followed his own habits. He'd already combed out his hair and taken out his hairpiece. So his hair was now longer than ever, and he'd gathered it into a casual ponytail at the back of his head to stop it from falling into his eyes. Prince Jing loved seeing him in such a relaxed, domestic state. Grabbing Li Gonzi's hands, he put them into the warm water and rubbed his palms gently. Liu couldn't be any more familiar with water. He scooped some up and poured it all over the back of Prince Jing's hand. The prince smiled, and the two of them played with the water for a while. They're just so cute. Liu cursed inwardly as he realized he had lost track of time. He furtively glanced at the hourglass he'd brought from the manor, which kept track of time that he could spend as a human. Making a quick estimation, Liu figured he had more than enough time to take a bath. Your Highness, do you happen to have a bath? No. Do you want to take a bath? I can help you wash your back, Liu blurted out. As soon as the words had left his mouth, he felt like an idiot. Prince Jing had just cleaned his hands and face, and now he was talking about a bath. He was a fish, so he spent most of his time in the water, and he never got too dirty. But while they'd been on the road for 2 months, Prince Jing had only been able to take a bath when the inns they'd stayed at allowed for it. Liu was just worried Prince JIng was uncomfortable. Prince JIng understood his intentions and nodded, smiling. He didn't want to overwork Liu, though, so he walked to the bathtub himself. Wang Shi had prepared plenty of hot water. Wang Shi's the best, absolute best. After seeing how awkwardly Liu poured water into the copper basin, there was no way Prince JIng was going to let him pick up the water jug again. Prince JIng tested the water temperature and poured the water himself. Your Highness, I can help wash your back. Liu's eyes were bright as he draped a towel over his arm. Prince JIng took a secret glance at the hourglass. They still seemed to have enough time, so Prince JIng suddenly pulled Liu into the tub. Oh, it's my earrings that are clicking. I was like, what is clicking next to me? And it's this. Your Highness, what are you doing? Prince JIng took a secret glance at the hourglass. They seemed to still have enough time, so Prince JIng suddenly pulled Liu into the tub. Your Highness, what are you doing? Liu exclaimed in shock as he toppled headfirst into the water. Ouch. Prince JIng smiled and pressed Liu into the side of the tub. His Highness didn't just want a back scrub. He wanted a full fish meal. Woohoo. Liu was completely red after the bath, and there was still a bit of something lurking in his eyes. Sitting on the chair, he kicked his feet aimlessly while Prince JIng helped him change into a snowy white silk top and dry his hair. Liu suddenly realized who was taking care of whom. Whatever. This fish wasn't fussed with the details. He shook off the towel and smiled, stepping onto Prince JIng's feet, one foot after the other. He wasn't wearing socks or shoes, and his feet were still a little wet. Prince JIng went very still. Liu knew he was fanning the flames. They'd been dating for nearly half a year, and their feelings were steadily growing deeper. He had followed Prince JIng from the manor all the way to the dilapidated dwelling, but everything still felt sweet. Did this mean they could push things a little bit further? He'd only laid down those rules in the beginning because he was afraid he'd turn into a fish in the middle, after all. Not because he didn't want to. Actually, the transformation problem wasn't impossible to overcome. He had an accurate way to measure time now. He could totally split the bed activities in two halves. For example, he could transform on the night of the first day. When it was close to midnight and his time was almost up, he could find an excuse to go to the other room, such as going to the bathroom, and turn back into a fish. He just had to wait a moment until the next day and then transform again. In simpler terms, he just had to minimize the time between transformations, and night was the best time for such activities. Hard work always paid off. The fish had finally managed to come up with an ingenious plan, and he definitely wanted to try it. Over the last few months, Prince JIng had practically become a monk. Liu had tried to seduce him over and over, but Prince JIng followed the rules to a T, refusing to even enter the room. Liu suspected that if this continued, he might as well become a monk as well. Seriously, why did he lay down those rules in the beginning? Now he was facing the consequences. Sob. He really wanted to do it. All right, sob, number one. Number one. Got it. And it's only took to page 17. With Liu's legs shifting restlessly, Prince JIng was also uncomfortable. He took a step, wanting to find out the fish's intentions. Liu's feet were on Prince JIng's, and he was zoned out. Losing his balance, he was about to fall over when Prince JIng quickly caught him. What better way to start than a horny sob. Very true, Annika. Liu seized the opportunity. He fell onto Prince JIng and rubbed his eyes, pretending he could no longer keep them open. Prince JIng picked up the fidgeting fish and set him down lightly on the bed. Liu quickly clung onto him, not letting him go. Although they had taken a bath together, he knew Prince JIng was holding himself back and was currently in a bit of a state. Despite all the time they had spent abiding by the rules, Liu still knew how to get his boyfriend worked up. Woohoo. Prince JIng was clearly affected. In unison, the two of them glanced at the hourglass out of the corners of their eyes. They're like, do we have time? Like, how much time? Now that they were cuddled together, Liu thought he was about to succeed. Prince JIng let go of him as usual, but Liu didn't say goodbye. Instead, he hinted in a small voice, "Your Highness, wait for me." Prince JIng froze. Liu fluttered his lashes at him playfully and gave him a sultry glance, about to rush to the other room to prepare. At that moment, the unexpected happened. There was a yell from outside. "Your Highness, watch out!" Liu and Prince JIng heard the sound of knives and swords outside. Did they just get cock-blocked by, like, bandits? Oh, Prince JIng's gonna murder their asses. Like, he's about to get some fish, finally, and bandits... I feel sorry for the bandits. Like, let's be real. He's gonna have Lan Wangji horny grip on their ass. He's gonna be so pissed. They glanced at each other. Who could have guessed assassins would appear in this tiny town thousands of miles away from the capital? Liu was not at all prepared. It was almost time for him to transform. For a moment, he was frozen in place, at a loss for what to do. Prince JIng, on the other hand, reacted much more quickly. He rushed forward, grabbing Liu, who was almost nearly out the door, and shoved him behind a wardrobe. He nodded at Liu. "Hide here, don't move." Prince JIng waited until the noises grew louder, then rushed out with his sword drawn. The western border was rife with conflict, but this had been an empty dwelling. As soon as they arrived, so did the assassins. What a coincidence. Note the sarcasm. Naturally, Prince JIng assumed that they were here for him, but he still had to confront them. There were only so many rooms in this residence. If he didn't face them now, the assassins might make their way inside, and Xiao Yu would be in danger. If he went out to challenge them, at least Xiao Yu would be safe. I love that that's his thought process. Like, okay, if they come in here, my fish boy might be in danger. That's unacceptable. I will take the fight to them. He closed the door behind him and took a moment to calm himself. The guards were engaged in a brawl with a group of masked men in dark clothes. It was unclear who had the upper hand. One of the assassins broke away to head for him, but Prince JIng kicked them away and entered the fray. Ooh, a little rhyming there. As expected, the assassins were in the midst of searching through the rooms, but as soon as Prince JIng showed up, they stopped their search, with more than half of the assassins concentrating their attacks on Prince JIng. Inside, Liu paced around worriedly, listening to the sounds of shouting and fighting from outside. He couldn't bear to hide by himself, so he cracked the window open a bit to see Prince JIng battling alongside the guards. He suddenly felt much better. He scanned the scene just in case, and happened to spot someone drawing a bow in the distance. His heart raced. He didn't know if Prince JIng would be able to avoid it. Beside himself with worry, he glanced around inside the room. His eyes brightened as they landed on a copper basin, but then he quickly glanced at the hourglass. He gritted his teeth. He still had a little bit of time. As long as he was decisive and moved quickly, it would work. Liu grabbed the copper basin, hiding behind it like a shield, and then pushed open the door and ran out wildly. "Your Highness, watch out for the archer!" No sooner had the words left his mouth than an arrow sped towards Prince JIng. Liu screamed in alarm, but Prince JIng calmly tilted his head to the side and avoided it. Liu rushed forward and shielded Prince Jing with the copper basin. His fear only lasted a short second. The hand holding the copper basin was shaking, but very quickly steadied. He was a man, too. He knew Prince Jing had rushed out in order to protect him, but he wasn't afraid of death. He wanted to protect Prince Jing. Meanwhile, Wang Shi had arrived with even more guards, and others rushed over from nearby. The dark-clothed intruders were gradually surrounded. Seeing that the situation was not in their favor, they started to retreat. Prince Jing grabbed a bow from Wang Shi and, without taking the time to aim, shot down the archer from before. Look at you, badass. Very quickly, the archer was surrounded by the guards. With the danger over, Liu clung tightly to Prince Jing. He used to be afraid of blood, but now that Prince Jing was covered in it, he didn't seem to care anymore. Not only did he not care, he straight up burst into laughter. I thought he was going to burst into tears. Just now, a thought had flashed through his mind. What if Prince Jing had been shot by the arrow? He was afraid of the assassin, sure, but he was much more afraid of losing Prince Jing. He wanted them to live peacefully together. As Liu made the realization, there was an announcement from the system. Through thick and thin was now completed. Liu smiled smugly. He was just about to praise himself when his smile suddenly froze. Fuck! His time was up! Liu had no time to say anything to Prince Jing. He ran back to the room. The moment he pushed open the door, Liu heard the chilling sound of a bow being pulled back. Gonzi, be careful! Wang Shi yelled in a panic, but he was too far away to help. Liu's eyes widened. He didn't even have time to look back. Seeing that the arrow was about to reach Liu, Prince Jing threw himself at him, toppling both of them into the room. They fell to the ground, narrowly avoiding the arrow. Liu was held protectively in Prince Jing's arms. The corner of his eyes was a little damp. Your Highness, Liu choked up, but before he could voice any of his gratitude, he turned into a lively, jumping fish before Prince Jing's very eyes. Chapter 1 of the book, he gets discovered. At least it was like right as they got to the border, because that would have been a pain in the butt to figure out. But yeah. And here, oops. I know we almost died, but hi. Yeah, his alarmed expression is hilarious. He's like, shit. Oh God. Like, that is definitely an oh God face. Like, oh no. Oh God, no. Yeah. Oh, hang on. I'm gonna take a quick sip. I'm really glad that that's one of the pictures they chose to draw the illustrations, because that is hilarious. Chapter 78, Bossy Fish Spirit. Liu's mind went blank. He had just transformed right in front of Prince Jing. How is he going to cover this up now? Slap Prince Jing into unconsciousness, then tell him it was all a dream? How absurd. A fish or human, his strength was no match for Prince Jing's. His cover hadn't just fallen off, it had been shattered to pieces. You couldn't just put it back on. Struggling wildly inside his clothes, Liu almost forgot to jump back into the tank. What would happen now that Prince Jing knew Li Gonzi was a fish? He'd think Li Gonzi was a carp spirit, right? You had heard that in ancient times people burned Yao. He didn't want to become a grilled fish. Why is violence his first choice here? I mean, slapping people seems to be his first choice a lot of times, not just here. Let's be real. Preoccupied with his internal screaming, Liu completely forgot there was a third person here. The assassin who'd shot at him had escaped into the room because he was injured, and he'd just witnessed a human transforming into a fish. He was so shocked he couldn't even speak. Prince JIng quickly got up, kicking the door closed. He had to keep Wang Shi and the others outside before they could rush over. Then he approached the assassin menacingly and knocked him out. With the assassin taken care of, Prince JIng glanced back at the carp spirit. Xiao Yu was still struggling, lost, as though his mind had gone completely blank. We do like a good fish slap, though. We very much so do. Prince JIng sighed inwardly. He'd done his best, now that the situation had come to this. He didn't know how to deal with it either. His most pressing concern was that the fish lacked water, so he immediately put him into the tank. He'd find out what the carp spirit's intentions were before making any other moves. Liu's brain was completely mush at this point. Watching Prince JIng rush here and there, he didn't know what to do with himself. It wasn't until Prince JIng stopped in front of him that the fish snapped out of it. Was Prince JIng going to capture him? Liu was too afraid to move. It wasn't a big room. Now that he'd been spotted, there was nowhere he could hide. Besides, he couldn't go without water for long, even if he managed to escape. The only place he could run to was the fish tank. What was he supposed to do? He was about to become a dead fish. Liu's body went stiff, allowing Prince JIng to pick him up. Liu resisted the urge to take a swipe with his tail. Even now he couldn't bear to slap his boyfriend in the face. Sob! No, his boyfriend was definitely about to dump him. Alright, I count that as a sob. It wasn't a sob, but we got a sob. We're 2 for 2 on chapters. No, his boyfriend was definitely about to dump him. Now that Prince JIng knew he was a fish, it was hard to say whether he'd even want to keep him anymore. Yesterday he was his beloved pet fish. Today he might just saute him. The more Liu thought about it, the less confidence he had. Prince JIng held him in his hands, but Liu didn't wrap his tail around his finger like normal. Instead, his tail was straight and stiff. He'd have to lay flat later anyway, when it was time to get skewered for barbecue. Yeah, very dramatic. Liu's thoughts dissolved into shock as Prince JIng put him into a crystal bottle. Wait, didn't Prince JIng want to kill him? After Prince JIng dropped him into the water, Liu observed quietly. Prince JIng was just looking at him intently. It didn't seem like he wanted to arrest him. Liu swam a careful lap, and Prince JIng didn't have any other reaction. Your Highness, how are you and Li Gonzi doing? Are you hurt? Wang Shi yelled loudly from outside. There was still an assassin inside, and Li Gonzi might even be injured, but his master had closed the door. Why? At that moment, Liu was very sensitive to sound. Wang Shi banging on the door gave him quite a fright, and he sank to the bottom of the bottle. Was it too late to pretend to be dead? Prince JIng glanced helplessly at the fish's attempt to play dead. He couldn't speak, so it was hard to communicate. He thought about it for a moment, then reached into the water with a finger and patted Xiao Yu's head comfortingly, confusing the fish even more. If Wang Shi didn't get an answer soon, he was going to knock down the door. Prince JIng grabbed the unconscious assassin, walked out, and then immediately closed the door behind him, not letting anyone inside to see. As soon as he left the room, Prince JIng's handsome face darkened. He took care of the assassin with a single stab of his sword and threw him onto the floor. Thanks to Xiao Yu's fear of seeing him kill someone, this assassin, who had dared to harm his beloved, had been allowed to live a few minutes longer. But Xiao Yu's identity had to remain a secret. Yeah, I was wondering a little bit about that. I was like, he's still alive? Now it makes sense. It was like, for a second. Wang Shi quickly ordered someone to move the corpse. Your Highness, what about Li Gonzi? Prince JIng glanced back at the room. Wang Shi immediately understood. As long as he's all right. Your Highness, do we need to summon a physician? The attack had been so chaotic. Wang Shi was afraid his master, Li Gonzi, was hurt. Prince JIng wanted to refuse, thinking about how scared Xiao Yu was. But after a moment's consideration, he gestured with his hands. Wang Shi nodded. This old servant understands. We'll leave Li Gonzi to rest for a few days. I'll call for a physician another time. Liu was listening from just the other side of the wall. Every time Wang Shi mentioned him, he'd tremble with anxiety. He couldn't see what was happening, and he didn't know how Prince JIng would explain things to Wang Shi, so he could only guess from Wang Shi's responses. He listened for a while, but it didn't seem like Wang Shi knew that he was a fish. Did Prince JIng not tell him? He'd seen him transform, so why didn't he tell Wang Shi? Even if it was unbelievable that a human could turn into a fish, Wang Shi, of all people, would believe Prince JIng, so why didn't he? Liu's scrambled brain finally started to catch up with what had happened. Prince JIng's expression when he left, as well as the gentle way he touched his head. It really didn't seem like he was angry. Liu couldn't help the pitiful hope blooming at the bottom of his heart. Was it really possible that even though he'd discovered his secret, Prince JIng wasn't angry and was instead helping him to cover it up? How else could he explain the prince refusing to let Wang Shi into the room and carefully putting him in the crystal bottle? Didn't His Highness think he was a monster? While Liu floated in his tank, feeling uneasy, Prince JIng took care of all the things that needed his attention right away. First, he had to make sure no one else had noticed anything when Liu had transformed back into a fish. Luckily, he had thrown himself on top of Liu, and other than the assassin, who had already been taken care of, no one else had been close enough to see anything. There were no high-ranking officials in Luofeng village. Now that Prince JIng was here, he was naturally the highest authority. There was no need to take the assassins anywhere else. They were handed over to the guards for questioning. The reinforcements Wang Shi had brought consisted of 2 squads of imperial guards. The captain came over to bow to Prince JIng in greeting and said he was under the emperor's orders to protect him. Rubbing his brow, Prince JIng ordered Wang Shi to first thank them on his behalf and then began a draft of the message he was going to send to the emperor. Now that Prince JIng had decided to fight for the throne, he had to let the emperor know when anything serious took place. Prince JIng picked the most important things to relay. After taking care of all the tasks at top speed, he went to look for Xiao Yu. Before entering the room, he once again signaled to the servants that they should not enter. Then he stepped quietly over the threshold and went to look for the fish in the tank. The difference was obvious as soon as he entered the room. Xiao Yu no longer seemed dejected and swam to him willingly, his tail wagging eagerly. The carp spirit had thought it through. The corner of Prince JIng's lips quirked up as he affectionately patted the fish's back. But Liu responded by diving behind an underwater plant and peeking out at him. Prince JIng knew Xiao Yu was testing him because he was afraid, so he didn't make a Freudian slip there, hey God. Prince JIng knew Xiao Yu was testing him because he was afraid, so he didn't make a big deal out of it. He took out the note he had just prepared and spread it open where the fish could see. Liu saw what was written on the paper clearly. Don't be afraid. Oh. Prince JIng had written many notes to the fish. He'd gotten hurt for him, and just now he'd saved him. Liu suddenly felt a little teary-eyed. Sorry, Your Highness. Perhaps I should have told you. The fish and human faced each other. Earlier in his quest to get intimate, Liu had delayed his transformation until the night. Now that it was past midnight, Liu knew he could transform back into a human. In the end, the plan he'd put so much thought into was going to be used to come clean. Before, afraid that Prince JIng would hate him, Liu would never have dared to transform rashly. Now, he let it all go. That note had given him endless courage. Without hiding anything, Liu poked his transformation scale, and right before Prince JIng's eyes, he turned into a human again. Wrapping himself messily in his clothes, he said, Your Highness, I have something to tell you. About me, about why I can turn into a fish, how was he supposed to explain? Belatedly, Liu realized he didn't know how to start. Was he supposed to tell Prince JIng that he was originally human and for some reason had transformed into a fish with a system, and Prince JIng was just a character in a novel he'd read? Even if Prince JIng could accept his transformation, there's no way he could accept that he was a character in a book. After all, it would change his entire worldview. What if he'd told the truth, but Prince JIng thought he was talking nonsense? It was best not to mention the system or his transmigration. But if he didn't, how was he going to explain this? Liu had never expected his identity to be exposed so suddenly, and he definitely hadn't expected that explaining afterward would be so hard. He had to come up with a reason that would be acceptable to Prince JIng. Aha! As he desperately searched for an explanation, a light bulb went off in Liu's head. Prince JIng had personally witnessed him turn into a fish, so he definitely must have presumed he was a Yao. But Prince JIng had chosen to protect him regardless. That meant that there was still room in Prince JIng's heart for Li Gonzi, even if he was a Yao. Prince JIng had read all those novels about cultivation in Yao recently. That was probably why he could accept that Liu was a Yao so fast. That and the fact that he wanted to protect Liu. Prince JIng wasn't a man who lost his cool easily. If he was the sort to be panicked and at a loss the way Liu had been when his identity was exposed, Wang Shi and the others would have found out on the spot. As Liu came to this realization, he wanted to weep. How could this man be so good? He always knew how good Prince JIng was to him, but somehow every time he found a way to treat him even better. Since Prince JIng could accept that he was a carp spirit, he might as well stop trying to look for an excuse. He'd just pretend to be a carp spirit. What was the difference between a fish with a system and a cultivating fish? They could both go back and forth between human and fish. It was basically the same thing, right? If he was a carp spirit, then couldn't the system be categorized as the immortal guiding him and the tasks as a kind of cultivation? It all matched up. Then why did he transmigrate? It was to endure tribulation? He could only transform for 2 hours a day because he hadn't cultivated enough? Liu suddenly felt much better. He almost started waving his arms around in his excitement, but Prince JIng patted his arm, encouraging him to calm down. Liu thought everything through in his head hastily before finally stammering. Your Highness, I want to tell you, I'm actually a carp spirit. Prince JIng nodded cooperatively. He'd known for a long time. Liu spun a fantastical tale. Once he was done, he looked at Prince JIng worriedly, afraid that Prince JIng would spot his lies. or that he would suddenly go back on his decision and decide it was off-putting that he was a fish. Fortunately, Prince JIng didn't show a hint of disgust. He even spread his arms in response after Liu's tale. This meant that he was willing to accept him, to support him, and to continue being his boyfriend. Liu's nose prickled with emotion. Oh, welcome, Omar's Rover. You missed quite the point. Liu, there was assassins that ambushed Prince JIng, and Liu rushed in to save him, completed the Through Thick and Thin mission, and transformed basically in his arms. So now we have reached the point of Liu realizing, oh, he's surprisingly calm about this. I'm going to pretend and explain that I'm a carp spirit, and we're at that point right now. Yes. But welcome. Fortunately, Prince JIng didn't show a hint of disgust. He even spread his arms in response after Liu's tale. This meant he was willing to accept it. Haha, Liu's tale. Sorry. To support him and to continue being his boyfriend. Liu's nose prickled with emotion. Not even he believed his own shoddy explanation, but this person chose to believe him. He choked on a sob. Your Highness, I would never harm you. Let's continue just like before, okay? I'm counting it. So we're at 3. Prince JIng nodded. Their situation had never changed. Liu approached him slowly, leaning carefully and gradually into him. Occasionally, he'd glance up at Prince JIng's expression, but he could see that he really didn't mind. Liu was eventually completely relieved. He couldn't believe he'd managed to safely make it through exposing his identity. He let out a few muffled shouts, unwilling to let go of Prince JIng's arm. When he remembered to check, the hourglass had once again been almost empty. He couldn't continue with his original plan to finally consummate their relationship, but Liu still didn't want to leave. He had a boyfriend who didn't care that he was a Yao. Your Highness, I'm a little sleepy. Let me sleep for a while. The bossy carp spirit found a warm, comfortable position in Prince JIng's arms and fell asleep, at peace. Prince JIng kissed his forehead, wrapped him up in the blankets, and lay down with him. He waited until the hourglass was empty and the person sleeping in his arms turned back into a fish, then got up and put his fish into the tank. He hadn't been able to bring the crystal fish tank, but the bed of silver rocks and the gold-embroidered blanket were here. Prince JIng put the fish on the rocks and wrapped him up in the blanket. The fish remained comfortably in dreamland. In his sleep, he reached out with his tail and wrapped it lovingly around Prince JIng's finger. Chapter 79. Fishy Probing the Secret. Liu slept for an entire day. This was the most peaceful sleep he'd gotten since he'd transmigrated. When he woke up, he thought he was still dreaming. Luckily, the note and food that Prince JIng had placed next to the tank reminded him that he already knew and accepted his identity. He'd even gotten him plenty of local snacks. Liu happily turned into a human to eat them. When he wasn't worried about anything, he had a big appetite. Prince JIng was in the next room working. When he heard the fish moving around next door, his lips twitched and he ordered Wang Shi to summon the physician. He had brought along a few skilled physicians from the capital all the way to the western border, just in case. After Liu was done eating, he was asked to come out so the physician could check his pulse. Liu was confused. He ate and slept well, so why did he need to see a physician? But Prince JIng's presence reassured him. and he walked over obediently. He sat down right next to Prince JIng and extended an arm towards the physician. The physicians kept their surprise to themselves. They were all curious what kind of background this Li Gonzi had and were worried they'd say something to offend him. But looking at the two of them together, they were sure they couldn't go wrong with treating him like Prince Jing's family. You're correct. That would be a fantastic idea. After checking him over, the physicians declared that Li Gonzi was fine. Prince JIng had even ordered Wang Shi to ask if Li Gonzi or Liu had suffered any shock. Liu had indeed been scared in the beginning, but after his biggest worry was resolved, he had slept extremely peacefully without a single bad dream. But seeing how concerned his boyfriend was for him made Liu smile. He was just about to tell Prince JIng not to worry when the prince reached for his hand under his sleeve and rubbed it slightly. Liu recognized this as a signal from Prince JIng. Li Gonzi, after sleeping well and eating heartily, paused for a second and lied. I can't really fall asleep, and I have a hard time eating. The physicians discussed this amongst themselves for a while, deciding Li Gonzi might have really suffered a fright. After all, shock wasn't an illness one could easily see. The physicians all asked Li Gonzi to rest easy for a while. Prince JIng gave Wang Shi a look, and Wang Shi immediately understood. Since Li Gonzi was suffering from shock, they should probably tell the imperial guards as well as mention it, the note they were sending back to the palace. And of course, there was no need to mention Li Gonzi directly. Li Gonzi was deeply precious to His Highness. If Li Gonzi suffered a shock, didn't that mean His Highness had also suffered a shock? They are two of one body. Courtesy of Wang Shi's secret signals, the news successfully reached the capital. Prince JIng had encountered a large group of assassins as soon as he arrived at Luofeng village, suffered a huge shock, and was now unable to get up from bed. When he received the news, the emperor was beside himself with worry. He sent a number of reinforcements to the western border and ordered the imperial guard stationed there to thoroughly investigate the backgrounds of the assassins. He wanted to test Prince JIng, not kill him. Prince JIng was his only son, and as soon as he'd arrived at the border, he was attacked. It was hard not to be suspicious. The emperor also ordered the guards to investigate any recent letters going from the capital to the western border. He suspected this incident had something to do with the fight for the throne. It was so quiet in Xianxing Palace that one could hear a pin drop. The emperor's gaze landed on a list of the prince's names. The second prince was in no mental state to assassinate anybody. Who could have done this to Prince JIng? Your Highness, you must be careful of the sixth prince. Using the excuse of his newly revealed carp spirit identity, Liu once again started lecturing. He couldn't not. They had already been attacked by assassins. Prince JIng never went to the western border in the original story, so Liu had no way of knowing who had sent the assassins, but as the final boss, the sixth prince was the most suspicious. Liu was afraid of Prince JIng underestimating him. Prince JIng could finally ask, why? They were all princes, but Xiao Yu rarely mentioned the second or third princes. The idea of the sixth prince presenting a major obstacle seemed rather far-fetched. Liu had already thought of an excuse. His identity as a carp spirit was indeed useful. He cleverly spun his transmigrator's golden finger into the ability to foresee things due to his cultivation. I am able to see into the future a little bit, so I know that the sixth prince will become your highness's greatest enemy. Your highness has suffered at his hand many times already. Oh my gosh, my back just suddenly started itching. That was weird. Prince JIng thought to himself, perhaps not just in the future. When the sixth prince had tried to one-up him at the emperor's birthday, he had realized the sixth prince was quite ambitious. Now that he wasn't in the capital anymore, the sixth prince should gain the emperor's attention and favor. at least on the surface. His future life seemed set. But if anything happened at the western border, the sixth prince would be first on the list of the emperor's suspects. Besides, Prince JIng wasn't inclined to let the sixth prince get too comfortable. The sixth prince had tried to hurt him through Xiao Yu multiple times. Prince JIng would never let that go. He hadn't even gotten back at him for the emperor's birthday yet. Seeing Prince JIng getting serious, Liu smiled. "But don't worry, Your Highness," he said. "There's no way he'll win against you. I'm just bringing it up because I don't want you to suffer through any unnecessary hardship." Prince JIng nodded. So, the sixth prince was nothing but a paper tiger. So, what that is, it doesn't have it mentioned here, but to my understanding, a paper tiger is basically someone who looks or appears fierce or like has the backing but does not have the spine to do it. Like they're flimsy. They look fierce, but they're flimsy. So, all bark, no bite, I think would be a similar sort of phrase or meaning. Oh, you know what? I'm curious enough to look it up real quick to see if I'm correct. Okay. A person or thing that appears threatening but is ineffectual. So, not able to produce any or the desired effect. So basically, like, looks fierce or looks like a potentially difficult opponent, but can't really actually pull through. Okay. Prince JIng asked, "What sort of technique is your foresight? Is it the same as the time with Yi Qing Huan?" It was a prediction last time with Yi Shizi as well, said Liu. "This technique, it's called the Golden Finger." Prince JIng thought for a moment. "Did your Golden Finger predict you and me?" Liu shook his head hurriedly. "No. The Golden Finger isn't always accurate. It's just a possibility." The plot had long since gone awry. In a roundabout way, Liu told Prince JIng everything the Sixth Prince had done in the book. But he didn't mention Prince JIng ascending to the throne because that might affect Prince JIng's evaluation of the situation. Though the ending wouldn't change, what if it made the progress and process too tragic? The best course of action was what they were doing already, taking things slowly and cautiously. Prince JIng then asked, "Can I learn this technique?" Liu was exasperated. Why didn't Prince JIng care more about the Sixth Prince? Why was he only asking about cultivation? Hello, wake up. You are the male protagonist of a palace drama, you know. Why couldn't they move past Prince JIng's interest in cultivation? Liu suppressed his urge to shout and did his best to persuade him. Your Highness is of the royal family. Cultivation is not for you. Please reconsider and stop thinking about this. Prince JIng looked down, expression growing sad. After your tribulation is over, how long will you stay? Liu squeaked, then remembered that the tribulation was his excuse for showing up in Prince JIng's life in the first place. The prince was asking Liu how long he would stay in this ancient world. The fish scamming system had never mentioned this before, and Liu hadn't thought about it either. At first, he just wanted to get back as quickly as possible. Now that he had attachments in this time period, Liu thought if he could choose, he would want to stay with Prince JIng for a long time. At the end of the book, Prince JIng was still healthy at 40 years old. That was still a long way away from now. To Liu, who was only 18, it seemed like a lifetime. But he hadn't transmigrated of his own accord. Would it be up to him how long he stayed? Liu thought about it carefully for a while, then said honestly, I'm not sure. He found he didn't want to lie to Prince JIng about this. When he heard his response, Prince Jing's expression turned furious, and he grabbed Liu's hand tightly in his, so tightly that it hurt a little. Your Highness, what's wrong? Liu asked, surprised. He didn't know why Prince JIng was suddenly so emotional. Prince JIng pulled him roughly into his arms and repeated silently over and over, Don't leave me. Your Highness? Liu didn't understand what was going on. He tried to wrap his arms around the other man's shoulders to calm him. The two of them fell into silence while in each other's arms. After a while, Wang Shi came to get Prince JIng, saying the assassins had confessed, so Prince JIng had to go deal with them. This wasn't something he could put off, so Prince JIng let go of Liu, looking much calmer. He glanced at Wang Shi. Take care of him. Wang Shi nodded enthusiastically. There was one good thing about the assassins. They made Li Gonzi and Prince JIng more affectionate with each other. Right? Oh, my heart. Soon after, Liu managed to get Wang Shi to leave and immediately headed into the mental ward of the system. He recalled that the quest through thick and thin had been completed when the assassin showed up. Because his cover was blown, he hadn't been able to check until now, but he could claim his reward now, right? Liu entered the system, immediately checking the main quest line. As expected, Through Thick and Thin was now completed. The reward was another one of Prince Jing's secrets. Liu let his mind wander as he looked at all 4 options, then suddenly asked, System, can I go back and look at the secrets I've viewed before? That secret with the tiger doll, the one that had to do with Changchun Palace, kept popping up into his mind. He'd never worked it out, so he couldn't let it go. The system was silent for a while, as though it was thinking it over. Just as Liu thought there was no hope, one of the 4 choices became a dark palace. Changchun Palace! Yes! The user is allowed to swap his reward, the system said. Please choose. Liu understood that the system meant he had to pick from the 3 secrets he didn't know yet, or Changchun Palace. There was no hurry, he decided. He could check out Prince Jing's other secrets as he completed future quests. He wanted to figure this one out first. Liu chose Changchun Palace and immediately arrived at the location of the secret, a room in Changchun Palace. This time he was ready, and he observed everything very carefully. The woman's appearance, as well as the melody she hummed quietly as she waited for the servant. He also noticed that there was a bundle of cloth on the bed behind the woman. Liu hadn't really noticed last time, but this time he took a closer look. It looked a bit like swaddling clothes. When the woman and the servant began to struggle, he noticed that the swaddling moved slightly and a pair of dark, grape-like eyes peered out, observing everything curiously. So there was a baby in the room. At first, the baby had been hidden behind the woman, and then the conflict had started between the woman and the servant. So the first time, Liu's focus had been on the fight. He hadn't noticed the baby, but the child had always been there. Wait, this child made Liu come to a sudden realization. Why was this Prince JIng's secret? When he'd asked Prince JIng about it, he hadn't seemed to remember it at all. And since this was Prince JIng's secret, why was there no sign of Prince JIng himself? Actually, Prince JIng was here. He just hadn't noticed before. Because Prince JIng was this baby. No wonder he had no memories of this. But these memories existed. Liu had seen Prince JIng as a chubby little boy. Faced with the baby version of the chubby boy, he was able to recognize him quickly. Now that he had confirmed his suspicions, he already had more questions. Since Prince JIng was a baby and Liu hadn't spotted any cloth hangings used for mourning inside Changchun Palace, that meant that in the memory, Empress Xiaohui was still alive. Why would Empress Xiaohui allow a woman to be with the little prince alone? Judging by the woman's age, she wasn't a normal servant. Liu noticed the woman was a little bit on the plumper side and suddenly paused. Was this Prince Jing's wet nurse? Age, body type, and being alone with the little prince. It all added up. So was the secret that when Prince Jing was a baby, he had unknowingly witnessed his wet nurse being murdered by a servant? But there were plenty of people that Prince Jing had dealt with. Why was this a secret? He'd had a small breakthrough, but was now stuck in another bottleneck. When he emerged from the flashback, the system reminded him. User, the revitalization quest line has been updated. Please confirm the information before proceeding with the next step. Liu made a noise in response. His thoughts were interrupted again. Might as well continue with his quests. A notification immediately popped up in the system. User, please confirm your relationship with the Tyrant. The fish scamming system was asking him to confirm, but it was actually just another multiple choice. Fish pet or lover. He had leveled up from fish pet now. Liu naturally chose lover, unable to keep the smile off his face. The system said, User, please complete the next quest according to what you have selected as Prince Jing's lover. The system updated the next step of revitalization quest. Burn with passion with the Tyrant. Seriously? System, come out here. I promise to beat you to death. They had to be willing to give up their lives for each other to complete the Through Thick and Thin quest. What was required for burn with passion? It could be a problem if one's feelings develop too deeply too quickly. Liu gave a lewd smile. Didn't this mean the system wanted them to hook up too? Was Spring here? He'd eaten and drunk his fill, and now more and more he was craving the other man's body. 1 second. I feel like I'm smacking my lips a lot. So, with the burn with passion, we're going to get some spicy fish soon, I think. Chapter 80, Fishy Masterpiece. This was the task Liu was most excited for. After everything had been taken care of, he secretly started to plan. The room had to be neat and clean. He even ceremoniously switched to a set of bright red bedding. So that's tradition when you get married. Red is a very important color. It's a celebratory color, and the newlyweds sleep and consummate on bright red bedding. He placed a pair of jade pillows on the bed and stuffed a few boxes of different kinds of ointment behind one of the pillows. A friendly suggestion from Wang Gongong. Liu didn't know what would be most useful, so he just made sure to have one of each kind. I feel like that would have been a very awkward conversation with Wang Gongong. Or Wang Gong just being like, here, you're gonna need this. Still awkward. All that was left was to use his silver hourglass, time his transformation, and wrap himself in the blankets to wait excitedly. He figured he was being obvious enough. If his boyfriend still didn't get it, he was dumb as a block of wood. Ouch. Liu asked Wang Shi to help pass along the word, requesting that Prince Jing come back early. Although they were now at the western border, it didn't feel any different from Prince Jing's manner. He always felt safe and secure wherever Prince Jing was. That's so sweet. Liu waited and waited until eventually he fell asleep. When he woke up again, the hourglass was almost halfway finished, but there was still no sign of Prince JIng. He rubbed his eyes and sat up. Why wasn't Prince JIng back yet? Had he gotten caught up in something? Yeah, at least Wang Gongong's supportive, but it would still have been awkward. Absolutely. We love a supportive king. Liu recalled that the prince was probably dealing with the assassins. Of course he couldn't take him along. Liu himself being very willing to avoid such situations. Prince JIng was, after all, a prince from ancient times. Yes, he truly is the MVP. He had his own means of dealing with things. In the future, he would have to fight for the throne. Liu couldn't force him to see things from a modern perspective. As long as he didn't carelessly harm innocents, Liu could understand. Liu waited a little longer, his concern for the prince sweeping the filth out of his mind. He decided to go look for Prince JIng himself. He was just about to get dressed when he spotted the faint light coming from the window next door. A light bulb went off in his head. He knew where Prince JIng probably was. Wrapped in the blanket, Liu pushed open the door to the next room. Sitting at the table with a bunch of secret reports spread out in front of him, the tall youth had his brows furrowed deep in thought. In that instant, Liu desperately wanted to chase away all his worries. "Your Highness, you're still busy?" Liu called out in a soft voice. Prince JIng looked up, spotting Liu standing in the doorway wrapped up in a red blanket. He looked very cute with the way he was shaking his head, and Prince JIng couldn't help the upward quirk of his lips. He waved Liu over. Eagerly, Liu approached and sat down next to him. There were many maps laid out on the table. Liu had accompanied Prince JIng to his job at the Ministry of Works, and he immediately recognized them as topography maps. Clearly, the prince was studying the terrain. As soon as he sat down, Prince JIng swept him up into his arms, blanket and all. When he touched Liu's hand that stuck out of the blanket, his palm was a little cold. Prince JIng gave him a slightly accusatory side-eye and warmed Liu's hand in his. Liu felt warm and comfortable. "Your Highness, what are you looking at?" he asked quietly, pointing at one of the maps. They had just arrived at Lufeng village. Was Prince JIng planning on building another home? Prince JIng grabbed a brush, circled an area on the map, and wrote, "One man can hold out against 10,000. "You're preparing for battle, Your Highness?" Liu asked curiously. The border lay just outside Luofeng village. The constant risk of battle had left the area in chaos. Liu had known coming here that it was very possible that battle would break out, but wasn't it rash to start one as soon as they arrived? Why were they fighting? Prince JIng understood his worry. He handed a secret report to him. Liu asked hesitantly, "Can I?" Prince JIng nodded, and Liu opened the report. It turned out to be the assassins' confessions. The assassins had admitted that they were under the orders of a local gentleman. So, Squire Wu is a country gentleman, a class of lower rank, non-hereditary nobles who owned land in rural areas. So, basically the mayor, it sounds like. By the name of Wu, who had paid a hefty sum for the assassination attempt. It was a little shocking to read. Liu had assumed that the assassins had been sent by the sixth prince, but it was a random member of the gentry instead. Liu was confused. This Squire Wu had never met Prince JIng, and men like him might not have much influence outside their jurisdiction, but they were all rich. Why did he try to kill the prince? Seeing Liu's confusion, Prince JIng slowly handed Liu the other reports. Prince Jing found it just as suspicious as Li Yu did that such a minor noble would dare hire assassins, so he'd ordered the guards to investigate the man's background. In just one short day, the guards had already completed the background check. It was no secret in Luofeng village. The reason Squire Wu was able to wield such power and accumulate such a fortune in a remote, impoverished village was that he was secretly colluding with the bandits that the western border was overrun with. Prince JIng had done his research before setting off. So far, two great threats existed on the western border. The bandits were one of them, and they had the emperor constantly on edge. The border was rife with war, and so bandits often took the opportunity to harass people, going against the imperial government. The emperor had sent troops to deal with the issue before, but with little success. The bandits colluded with enemy countries, and they had the terrain advantage, so the army had never been successful in wiping them out. As a result, the bandit issue was a sore spot for the emperor. Amidst all this, Luofeng village was a choke point at the western border. The emperor had tried to appoint several officials there, but none lasted more than half a year before they invariably either quit or died, and the village head had run out of candidates. Currently, an interim official was taking over temporarily. The emperor had sent Prince JIng for two reasons. First, to give the prince a chance to test his skills, and second, because he had made up his mind to solve the situation at the western border. Before Prince JIng had left the palace, the emperor had given him a secret decree that he was to look at only when he'd arrived at the border. Now that he was here, he took it out to read it. The emperor had ordered him to strike when the opportunity was right, and to bring the western border under control. With this decree, Prince JIng was free to do as he saw fit. He first ordered the guards to arrest Squire Wu. When he was brought before Prince JIng, he denied everything and refused to admit guilt. He behaved arrogantly, so Prince JIng skipped the pleasantries and had him beaten half to death. Yeah, you don't want to disrespect a prince. Like, that is a great way to get your shit knocked. When the guards searched and seized Squire Wu's property, aside from gold and money, they found countless rare treasures and plenty of weapons. It turned out he wasn't a gentleman at all. He was just a bandit playing pretend, lurking within Luofeng village. He'd been planted there by the bandits to help them transport things in and out. When Prince JIng arrived, the bandits didn't take the mute prince from the capital seriously. They saw him as just another official, no different from all the ones they had bullied before. The bandit chief decided to prepare a special welcome for him and had Squire Wu send the assassins. Since Prince JIng had discovered Squire Wu's true identity, he wanted to bring him to justice and crack down on the bandits immediately. But that would anger the bandits, who had been running rampant for such a long time. Prince JIng had considered dealing with them before, but the people he had initially brought with him were just a handful of elites. They were highly skilled, but there weren't many of them. Now that the Imperial Guards had arrived, he had a greater chance of success, and he could finally attempt the fight. Although Prince JIng had read many military books, it was still his first time actually going to battle. After selecting the optimal position to face the bandits, he still had to think of a comprehensive strategy. Unfortunately, the bandits had strong soldiers and horses. It was difficult to come up with a plan. All these secret reports were making Li Yu go cross-eyed. He felt renewed admiration for his boyfriend. The fish brain was full to the brim with filth. His boyfriend was preoccupied with sticking it to the bandits instead of sticking it in him. This is what was called putting the interests of the whole before the individual. That sentence was wild. He really is a dirty-minded fish right now. It seemed that if the bandits weren't dealt with, there'd be no action for the fish to look forward to. Oh my goodness. He's really horny right now. Wow. Is your highness worried about strategy? I have an idea. Liu stroked his chin, giving Prince JIng a very meaningful sentence. Those hormones struck with a vengeance. They really did. Truly, Liu is comedy gold. He very much so is. He had seen the Emperor and the Duke of Chang'an stroke their chins like this, and he wanted to try it too. But their chins had majestic-looking beards, while Liu's was still the smooth, hairless chin of a young man. If he kept rubbing, it would look extremely out of place. Prince JIng held in his laugh. His gaze was expectant, as though asking, "What idea?" Prince JIng's dark, reflective eyes were undoubtedly his most beautiful feature. When he looked at others, they were cold as frost, but when he looked at Liu, they were full of emotion. When the pair of shining, sparkling eyes were on him, Liu could feel his heart beating hard in his chest. He felt like, ever since he'd admitted to being Carp Spirit, Prince JIng's trust in him had only grown. He snapped himself out of it, trying his best to keep his thoughts out of the gutter. "Look, Your Highness," he said, pointing at the map. "Many families in Luofeng village have cellars in their homes. These can be expanded. Once we really start fighting, we can prepare some food and water and have the people stay in the cellars. They'll be safe, and it will prevent the bandits from attacking fleeing villagers." Liu didn't want any harm to come to the villagers, so he thought of using the cellars as something like air raid shelters. Prince JIng nodded in agreement. Not bad. Once the villagers are hidden, you won't have anything to worry about. You can lure the bandits into the village. Then they'll be out in the open and will be hidden. If Your Highness can dig some underground tunnels as well, you'll be able to attack from there too. Liu batted his eyes mysteriously and drew a few traps on the map. The fish hadn't ever read books on war before, but he knew about mine and tunnel warfare. Prince JIng gave careful consideration to Liu's words and gained quite a lot of inspiration. He was about to ask for more when he realized Li Gonzi had turned back into a fish. He was currently waving his tail, flap, flap, flap. He scooped up the fish and the blanket with practiced ease, put the fish back in the tank, and put the blanket back on the bed. After all this, Prince JIng suddenly noticed the pair of jade pillows on the bed. This must be Xiao Yu's masterpiece. Prince JIng chuckled, putting the bright red blanket away. A little box was peeking out from the jade pillow. Reaching out to grab it, he discovered a few more. Prince JIng opened it and found a milky smooth ointment inside. He finally realized exactly what he had just missed out on. After he was he just realized what he had missed out on. He just realized that he got all work and no play in that instance. After he was captured, Squire Wu remained calm at first, assuming Prince JIng would use him to negotiate with the bandits. But once Prince JIng found out his true identity, he didn't bother keeping him alive. Instead, he had him hanged from a large tree at the entrance of the village and confiscated all his illegal wealth. If the bandits were going to try to scare Prince JIng, then Prince JIng would slap them right back. The village head was very worried about this. Prince JIng was a prince from the faraway capital. The village head wasn't hoping for much, but a son of the emperor definitely couldn't be allowed to be hurt in any way while visiting his village. When he found out there had been an attempt on Prince JIng's life, the village head nearly fainted. But Prince JIng had ordered the bandit to be hanged in retaliation. The village head laughed helplessly. Never mind being hurt. Now it would be a miracle if Prince JIng wasn't murdered. Killing Squire Wu was as good as declaring war on the bandits. The army had tried many times before and had never been successful. How many people did Prince JIng have? How did he think he was going to defeat the bandits so soon after arriving at Luofeng village? His Royal Highness Prince JIng would be fine after initiating the chaos. He could just leave and wash his hands of Luofeng village. What about its people? Suddenly, everyone in the village was in a panic. The village head asked to see Prince JIng many times, but Prince JIng never agreed. Eventually, one night, the furious bandits launched their attack, but when they invaded the village, they discovered it was empty. The next thing they knew, their opponents seemed to appear out of nowhere and had them completely confounded. Realizing something was wrong, they tried to escape but were brought up short by traps set at the village exit. This was the first time the bandits had been defeated so effectively. They had been caught by Prince JIng, who had been waiting patiently for his prey. Um, 2 chapters. Okay. Do you all mind if I run upstairs for a quick cup of coffee? I have the coffee made. I'm just kind of getting a little drowsy and I need a quick pick me up. I want to do these 2 chapters. Like, I'm going to do 2 more. I just need a sec. I'll be right back. All right. I will be right back. Oh, sweet, sweet ambrosia. Ay. Sweet, sweet ambrosia. Thank you, guys. All right. Because, like, I want to keep going, but I just need a little pick-me-up. Okay. One more sip. All right. Chapter 81. Fishy Burning with Passion. Liu was walking along the small streets of Luofeng village, accompanied by Wang Shi and a couple of guards. After the battle with the bandits, the villagers should have been exhausted, but all the people he saw along the way were full of energy and excitedly discussing what had happened. Gonzi, this was the result of a victorious battle from His Highness. Wang Shi praised his master enthusiastically. He's given them so much confidence. This had been Prince Jing's first battle against the bandits, and it was also Luofeng village's first victory against them in all these years. The villagers had received a huge burst of encouragement. The bandits weren't as invincible as they had imagined, and they now knew that the emperor, who might as well have been on the other side of the world, hadn't given up on them. That would be a very empowering thought, the fact that, like, you're in this village where you're constantly being attacked, constantly feel hopeless. I'd imagine after a while where you're just like, this is inevitable, it's going to happen, nothing's going to change, and then something actually does. Like, that would be phenomenal. Like, the joy of that, like, even if it's just one battle, like, wow. The hope would be through the roof. They were especially heartened by Prince JIng leading the battle against the bandits himself. Several villagers had witnessed Prince JIng's tactics in person and were vividly reenacting them for everyone else. When the bandits had been tricked into the village, the guards following the prince kept appearing silently where the bandits least expected it, striking them where it hurt. Prince JIng, though only a single person, seemed to be possessed by the god of war himself, slaying 3 bandits all on his own. As a result, Prince JIng had gained the reputation of a skilled warrior. Before Prince JIng had arrived at the border, the villagers had heard this prince was a mute with a brutal personality, so they didn't have a very good impression of him. Later, when Prince JIng hanged Squire Wu in front of an audience, the villagers were somewhat gratified, but not so gratified that they weren't terrified of the inevitable consequences. They all hoped that this prince would hurry up and leave. But it turned out this prince was hiding his true plans extremely well. He had managed to defeat the bandits that had been plaguing them for so many years. All the villagers now saw Prince JIng in a new light. Right now, they saw Prince JIng as their guardian angel. As long as Prince JIng was there, Luofeng village was safe. The person whose opinion had changed the most was the village head. Before Prince JIng fought the bandits, he was filled with worry. Now that the battle was over, the village head wanted to spend all day gushing about Prince JIng. He thought Prince JIng was much better than the useless officials they'd been assigned in the past. Hearing the villagers praise Prince JIng made Liu happier than if they'd been praising him. Although he'd given Prince JIng some ideas by mentioning the underground passageways and traps, he didn't understand war. He'd only talked about those concepts briefly, and Prince JIng immediately understood what to do with them. Their luck was also pretty good. Luofeng village just so happened to already have a few very short passageways in place, which the villagers had originally dug out because they were afraid of the bandits making their way into the village. Prince JIng took advantage of them and had ordered the guards to create more overnight. He had also planted many traps where the bandits were sure to pass by, leaving them to suffer miserably. Prince JIng had fought in the battle himself too, boosting the morale of the soldiers. With Prince JIng in the lead, they responded flexibly to the battle. Prince JIng's contribution to the victory was undeniable, and Liu felt very lucky to witness an ancient version of mine and tunnel warfare. I'm surprised that Prince JIng let him anywhere near the battlefield. Let's be real. Before he left for the battle, Prince JIng told Liu he had to hide with the villagers and that he would have someone stand guard over him, but Liu refused. Okay, there it is. He wanted to watch the battle from somewhere hidden. Prince JIng acquiesced. The entire time, Liu's eyes were locked onto the mute prince. He fought so bravely it seemed that he was invincible. Liu was no longer so afraid of such bloody scenes, at least not the way he had once been. Every moment he was gripped by the fear of losing Prince JIng, but he knew Prince JIng had to participate in this battle in order to establish himself. This was his first official step on his journey to the throne. Although he didn't hold the same deep hatred in his heart that drove him in the original book, some people were just born with certain qualities, and Prince JIng possessed the invincibility of someone destined for the throne. Gonzi, please hold on a moment. An old woman holding a child called out to Liu. Are you with your highness? Many bandits had been captured after the battle, and all the villagers had been checked by the village head. None of them were suspicious, and Liu had the guards and Wang Shi with him, so he stopped without hesitation. Grandma, I'm Prince JIng's attendant. Is there something you need? Liu asked in a gentle voice. After confirming she'd found the right person, the old woman shakily pulled out a flower crown from her sleeve. She handed it to him and said, Please pass this on to Prince JIng for me. I made this flower crown myself. Please thank him for saving my grandson and me. Liu didn't know how to react. What? The old woman explained that most of the villagers had been moved to a safe place during the battle, but her grandson was mischievous and had disappeared somewhere. Right? Oh! The old woman had missed her opportunity to be transferred to the safe area because she was trying to find him and hadn't known where to go. She was left sobbing on the side of the road, which was how Prince JIng had found her. He ordered the guards to help me find my grandson and took us somewhere safe. That's how we remained unharmed. She knew that if it had been anyone else, they might not have cared about an elderly person like her, especially one with a child. She was extremely grateful and wanted to thank Prince JIng. I'm getting Popo, Wen Popo and IUN vibes. Mischievous IUN vibes. But that's so sweet. They made a flower crown for Prince JIng. Big, imposing Prince JIng. Yeah. Liu really didn't know that the tyrant could do good deeds such as this. Was the tyrant turning into a benevolent ruler due to wing flaps of the little butterfly that was him? He smiled. Grandma, don't worry. I'll definitely pass it along. The old woman thanked him profusely, and Liu asked Wang Shi to hand a red envelope to her grandson. Liu puffed up his chest proudly. His heart felt sweeter than honey. After seeing all he wanted on his stroll, Liu returned to the residence with the old woman's flower crown. Prince JIng was in the middle of taking off his armor. Liu's eyes lit up as he rushed up to him. Your Highness, hold on. I want to touch it. It wasn't clear exactly what Prince JIng was thinking of, because his face suddenly went slightly red and he lowered his hands. Liu, carefully, what you thinking of, Prince JIng? Liu carefully smoothed the hand over his shining armor. He knew Prince JIng had already wiped it down to minimize the amount of blood Liu would have to see. Sometimes Liu thought he was being unreasonable. When you like someone, shouldn't you accept every part of them? Like how Prince JIng couldn't speak, how Liu was able to transform into a fish, and the blood that once stained his armor. All of this was part of them. So, I think that's a wonderful sentiment, But I feel like it's okay if there are parts of a person that bug you. It's okay. Because, like, we're all human. We all have our flaws. There are things that we're allowed to be irritated about, but, like, accepting that it's part of that person, that's okay. But, like, just taking everything sometimes is not the best. Like, you also have to have boundaries and, like, be like, you know what? I love you, but this is not okay. So, I love the sentiment of that, though. Yeah. Cute in fiction kind of would be great if it was realistic. Like, you're allowed to not like something about someone and still love them. Heck, you're even allowed to love them and not necessarily like them that day. That is perfectly valid. Not bringing up the topic was a way to show that he cared, but wasn't acceptance also a way to show it? I mean, yeah. Your Highness, in the future, I will do my best to get used to it, Liu said gently, helping him remove his armor. It will be okay. I just love how it's phrased, though. We all have our quirks. He can't speak, and I can turn into a fish. Yeah, it's like, It will be okay. At first, Prince JIng didn't know what he was talking about. Halfway through taking off his armor, he suddenly understood and wrapped Liu in his arms, kissing him aggressively. The armor was too hard and it hurt Liu a little, but he still hugged the prince back tightly. After removing the armor, Liu wanted to help him change into a set of casual robes. Prince JIng often helped him change, so Liu didn't think it was a big deal to help the prince now and then. But as soon as he moved to do so, Prince JIng shook his head. Huh? I'm already helping you change. Is there something you're not happy with? Prince JIng wasn't unhappy. He pulled out a red robe edged in gold and handed it to Liu with a smile. It wasn't that Prince JIng didn't want Liu to help him. It was that the casual robes weren't quite suitable. Liu was bewildered, but he helped the prince change. This was probably Prince JIng's most eye-catching robe. It was red, patterned with gold, and the jade belt was encrusted with pearls. If he tied a red ribbon in his hair, he'd look like he was getting married. There's that fun word in there that might make a hint of what's about to happen. Starts with an M. I love how Liu gets so close to the point, but then just kind of like walks past it. And like, it's like, I wonder what's happening. You missed it. Liu was just thinking it was an amusing coincidence when Prince JIng really did pull out a red ribbon and a jade comb, handing them both to him. Right? Liu kind of understood. I'm really bad at tying hair, he chuckled. Are you sure you don't mind? Prince JIng nodded again and again. Liu used all the skills he had and tied Prince JIng's hair up in a way that was almost competent. Having taken care of his boyfriend, Liu said excitedly, I want to change too. There was a new set of robes Prince JIng had made for him in his inventory. Prince JIng thought, on principle, no matter where they were, his wife had to have enough clothes. Before leaving the capital, he had made a rush order for Liu. Added to the clothes Liu had from before, he could wear a different set each day and never have to repeat an outfit. Liu liked the one he had pulled out now the best. For once, Prince JIng hadn't had a lot of gems added to this one. Instead, it was made of heavy, bright red silk, embroidered with fish playing amongst peonies. The peonies, woven with gold thread, were many-layered, blooming from the hem of the robe all the way to the waist. A lifelike carp wrapped around the waist, as if smelling the peonies. The embroidery on the robe was exceptional. Each flower petal seemed delicate and charming. The fish was silver with flecks of gold, and its scales shone. Liu already had a set of silver robes quite similar to the color of his fish form. This embroidery was even closer, as though it had perfectly captured him as a fish. Even the size was accurate. Liu fell in love immediately. Since Prince JIng was wearing red robes, Liu wanted to wear red too. They had worn matching outfits at Yishizu's wedding as well. As he was finished changing, Prince JIng put his hair up for him too, and tied a sash around his wrist that was embroidered with a pair of fish. Now dressed, the two looked at one another, each stunned by the other's appearance. Now what? Liu couldn't help but stutter. The boy is so oblivious, lol. Yep. Prince JIng smiled and reached into his sleeve. Liu was screaming in his heart. Here it comes! Here it comes! This man's about to do something again. What was it going to be this time? A nauseating love note or a little golden fish? It was neither. Prince JIng pulled out a rock and placed it on Liu's palm. Liu looked at it. The rock was shaped like a fish, and it was very familiar. It was the fish-shaped rock he'd put next to Prince Jing's jade figure in the huge fish pond in Prince Jing's manor. He remembered that after the fit he'd thrown when he was sick, both the rock and the figure had gone missing. He'd assumed they'd been swept to some random corner in the pond and thought it was a shame. But after Liu got a boyfriend, he didn't pay too much attention to it. Had it really been with Prince JIng all this time? Your Highness, how did you find it? Liu played with the rock, pleasantly surprised. He hadn't played with it in his human form before. But Prince JIng just wanted to give him this rock. He didn't want to explain how he'd found it. That'd take forever. Liu rubbed the carving on the stone, then suddenly looked up at Prince JIng with bright eyes. Then, did your Highness have the jade figure as well? Jade figure? Very quickly, Prince JIng realized what he was talking about. He had wanted to keep it to himself originally, but since Liu wanted it, he took it out as well and placed it in Liu's hand. Liu held the jade figure in one hand, the fish-shaped rock in the other, and placed them both together. His eyes were curved from smiling. Prince JIng watched on silently as the fish played. After Liu put them away, Prince JIng pulled out a jar of wine from a sealed box. Through the lid, Liu could already smell the fragrance of green plum wine. He didn't know Prince JIng had brought such a thing from the capital, and he burst out laughing. Your Highness, did you bring the entire manor with you? Prince JIng shook his head and opened the jar with a silver blade. This was a previously unopened jar of wine. The moment it was open, a strong fragrance spread throughout the room, making Liu's mouth water. Prince JIng, who normally didn't let him touch alcohol, suddenly changed his ways and fetched 2 jade cups. The cups were special too. There was a fish etched onto each one on the left and one on the right. When they were put together, they were a perfect pair. Prince JIng filled the 2 cups and handed one to Liu. Liu was just about to bring it to his lips when he snuck a glance at Prince JIng. Prince JIng was also holding the cup, but he wasn't moving. He just had his arm extended. Liu immediately realized what he wanted. He reached his arm over as well. The two intertwined their arms and drank the wine together. Yeah! Jiao Bai Ju is a part of a traditional Chinese wedding where the couple will drink their wine with their arms entwined. I think I actually said that right. I feel proud of myself. I said that right on the first try. Jiao Bai Ju. This wine has such a nice smell, Liu thought. It tasted even better than the first time he had tried it. Prince JIng smiled, deciding he would tell the fish later. He'd grabbed it from the old Duke of Chang'an before they'd left the capital. It was their wedding wine. Now that they'd changed and drunk the wine, there was still... he'd almost forgotten the old lady's flower crown. Liu handed it to Prince Jing and gave a simple account of the old woman's story. Did your highness really do that? Although he was sure it was true, Liu was still shocked. After all, Prince Jing had never done anything like that aside from saving the fish. Prince Jing nodded a little awkwardly. It was true, but there was a slight misunderstanding. Prince Jing didn't care about how the people on the western border viewed him. He hadn't saved the old woman because he pitied her. He was used to being alone ever since he was young and rarely cared for others. His heart was still cold, even now. But Xiao Yu cared about the villagers and didn't want them to come to harm. He just wanted to grant Xiao Yu's wish. I mean, that counts for something in my book, honestly. Like, hey, he's acknowledging, yeah, I don't really like people. Basically. But Xiao Yu does, and he cares, so alright, I can save the people. Like, I feel like that counts. It counts for something. His heart was still cold even now, but Xiao Yu cared about the villagers and didn't want them to come to harm. He just wanted to grant Xiao Yu's wish. Prince Jing didn't want to explain. He smiled and placed the flower crown on Liu's head. Xiao Yu should be the one receiving this reward. With the flower crown on his head, Liu suddenly felt playful. He smiled as he picked a red bloom from the flower crown and placed it against Prince Jing's chest. Wearing red, drinking wine, and wearing a flower, he was a real groom now. Liu couldn't help but think of the Burn with Passion quest, and his mouth suddenly went dry. Your Highness, are you tired? He asked, face red. Prince Jing was afraid of missing this fish again. He'd had enough energy to fight the bandits 10 times over. He shook his head fiercely. Huh? You're not tired? Then let's talk some more? Prince Jing thought they were getting further and further away from the main event. Opportunities were hard to come by. Prince Jing grabbed Liu's hand and pulled him in. When their lips approached, they were saturated with the wine's fragrance, gentle and romantic. Liu lost himself in the kiss, and Prince Jing scooped him up into his arms. Seeming to sense that something was coming, Liu couldn't help but fidget restlessly. Prince Jing brought him to the bed that was covered in red. The very bed Liu had prepared secretly before. Liu's gaze swept across the bed, both shy and pleased. Prince Jing patiently unfastened the bun he himself had helped Liu put up. On this night, where he was destined to lose something, Liu thought he should say something sweet to initiate it. He'd thought about this scene thousands of times. Thousands, huh? Ooh. It should be playful, yet lure Prince Jing in so he couldn't resist. Something Prince Jing would never be able to forget. Remembering Prince Jing's whole deal with absorbing essence, Liu found his inspiration. Imitating the characters in the novels, he teased. Husband, we Yao need to absorb essence. Before he could finish speaking, something blocked his view and he was pushed down. So being pushed down, I think, at least from some of the books I've read, is also another synonym for, like, getting frisky with it. It could also be literally he got pushed down and then they did the deed. But yeah. Oh, I got some coffee stains on my mat. Oh, I'll use a Clorox pen or whatever. Chapter 82, Fishy Aftermath. Oh, that's a fun title after what we know just happened. Liu had been a fish for a long time. It was a terrible feeling to be away from water for so long. but he enjoyed his current state of breathlessness. He cried and screamed, leaving mark after mark behind on the other man's shoulders. Prince Jing's overwhelming love shone through the pain of metamorphosis, and very quickly he was lost within it. The system's notifications went off inside his head, one after another, almost like explosions. Obviously, the burn with passion quest was complete, but Liu was practically an inferno by now, and had no attention to spare for the system. Not that he needed to pay attention. All he could do was collect his reward and figure out the next step. He'd take care of that when he had time. Liu screamed internally for the system to shut up and that he accepted everything, and that the stupid thing could finally quiet down. Now he could focus his attention on the sport of love. But the hourglass was almost up. Prince Jing stopped and kissed his bright red face, and though he looked at him with restraint in his eyes, his meaning was clear. Is it time to leave? Liu thought he was like Cinderella in the fairy tales, sitting in his pumpkin carriage. As soon as the clock struck 12, he would have to leave. But his Prince Jing, knew that he would turn into a fish, and even though he knew, he still left him. Your Highness, I don't want to leave. Liu loved this man before him more and more. He smiled while hugging him, and his voice was now hoarse from overuse. Because I know your Highness would never judge me. Liu giggled as he hugged Prince Jing again. Prince Jing stilled for a moment before he figured out what Liu meant. He felt both emotional and exasperated. The fish had thrown all caution to the wind and began to act recklessly. He had to grit his teeth and bear with it. Prince Jing took a few deep breaths so he couldn't be led astray by the fish. This truly was a huge test for him. As the final grains of sand were falling in the hourglass, Prince Jing laid Liu down and ruffled his hair. His lover's soft, sparkling eyes peered up at him, tears of pleasure still glistening in his eyelashes. Your Highness, wait for me, Liu said quietly. His fingers touched Prince Jing's fingers longingly like a small promise. Prince Jing held back all the passion he felt in his chest and waited quietly. In the next second, he watched as the youth turned back into a fish. Prince Jing had witnessed Liu transform many times by now, and he rushed to get to the fish tank, but the fish stopped him. He jumped up to his shoulder, rubbing against his face affectionately. Then, using his hair as a slide, Liu slipped into his palm. Since he used the hair as a slide, would that be technically considered a yeet? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Prince Jing was confused at first. The fish was too big now to be held in just one hand, so he cupped both hands, holding the fish within them. All of a sudden, his palms felt cold, and out of nowhere, they were filled with clear water. The fish was looking up at him from inside it. Prince Jing immediately understood that this was the carp spirit's magic. He'd conjured water. He waited, just like he'd been asked, until the sound of the dageng woodblock could be heard outside. So a dageng is a traditional method of time-telling at night. A night watchman would walk around town with a gong or woodblock, striking 5 times throughout the night, roughly once every 2.4 hours. When the hour was struck, it was as if the fish in his hands felt something, and he happily jumped out of Prince Jing's palms. Okay, that one's definitely a yeet. So we get 1 yeet. Where did my pen go? You know what? It's fine. Different pen. One yeet. Okay. Liu flipped over, making a beautiful arc in the air, and once again returned to human form, flying into his arms. Prince JIng caught him with a smile. Liu pouted, panting slightly. Your Highness, when carps absorb essence, it happens in 2 acts. Now that the first act is over, the second act is about to start. His hoarse voice contained a sliver of sweet charm as he continued to stroke the passion in his heart. You'd better be careful, Your Highness, or I might drain you dry. He wanted to drain him dry in just one night. It wouldn't be that easy. Prince JIng smiled, no longer suppressing the desire within his eyes. They'd had no choice but to extinguish the raging fire before, but now, without hesitation, they both added much more and more kindling, making the flames roar higher and higher. Liu slept late into the morning. When he woke, he realized he was laying on his silver rock bed with his leaf blanket wrapped around him. It was a shame he couldn't wake up pillowed on his boyfriend's chest, but with his fishy circumstances, being able to successfully absorb essence was already a great achievement. Liu was very satisfied with the whole process. He was just about to swim away from his bed when he realized his entire body felt as heavy as lead, and his fins felt like they had rusted over. Meanwhile, his tail, it hurt whenever he tried to move it. When he'd been secretly looking forward to it before, Liu had known there would be some discomfort afterward. He was familiar with human discomforts, but how would that pain feel in fish form? He felt better as a fish when he was sick, but what about after doing the deed? Now he knew. It wasn't much better in his fish form. It felt like the spot beneath his tail fin had been punctured by a hard, merciless steel fork. It burned. He understood now why fish mating was called intertwining tails. He might be the first fish to survive being skewered by a steel fork. Oh, you, the way you have with words. It's beautiful. Last time, when he'd asked Prince JIng how long he could last, Prince JIng held up one finger. Liu assumed he meant 10 minutes, or maybe even just 1 minute if he was unlucky. But now he realized that asshole had probably meant an entire hour. Oh, right, and last night he'd been skewered twice, the first half and the second half. He'd suffered through the pleasure, of being skewered both times. So, it felt great when they were doing it, but he was suffering from the aftermath now. And that is a very, very interesting sob. So that is number 4 for the book. He couldn't just lay here not moving forever. Liu couldn't even flip over, and he was hungry. Fortunately, his boyfriend, Prince JIng, was not far. Liu hadn't been hungry for long before Prince JIng was already walking over. Noticing that the fish was awake, Prince JIng felt boundless gentleness well up within his heart. He took out a piece of fish food to play with him. In the past, the fish would happily swim over and play around with him. Prince JIng liked to pet the fish. But now, despite his attempts, the fish just stared at him pitifully. After a while, he lifted his fish head, struggled for a bit, and then rolled off the silver rock bed. He continued to stare pitifully at him from the bottom of the tank. Prince JIng was shocked and rushed to pick him up. The fish was entirely limp in his hands. Last night, Prince JIng had tossed around the human Xiao Yu, but now he didn't know what to do when it came to this seemingly boneless fish. He brought the food to the fish's mouth, and the poor fish moved his mouth as quick as lightning and took the food. He could still eat, so it probably wasn't a serious issue. Prince JIng felt somewhat relieved. Before Liu had turned back into a fish, he had carefully examined him and made sure he was uninjured. As for his fish form, the physicians and servants who had experience with fish had all come to take a look before the fish had woken up. The physician couldn't check the fish's pulse, while the servants' faces turned worried and ashen, hemming and hawing without being able to give a definitive answer. Prince JIng just had to figure it out for himself. He knew at least a little. If he was uncomfortable, then they needed to apply medicine. But he couldn't apply it while Xiao Yu was still a fish. If you left it until the fish turned back into a human, they'd have to wait until the next day. Prince JIng was conflicted on how to take care of an injured fish for this period of time. Liu rubbed against his finger, wanting him to relax. His recovery speed had been buffed by the system, so perhaps he'd be fine soon. It was just a metal fork. He was a strong fish. Besides, he wanted more in the future. With the help of Prince JIng, Liu ate plenty of fish food and felt a lot more comfortable. He rewarded Prince JIng with a fishy kiss, then remembered he had to go claim his rewards and entered the system. The system's notifications had come one after another last night, like fierce waves. But at the time, he was so thoroughly preoccupied by the waves of passion, he had no time to worry about it. He really believes in powering through. Yes, he does. Now he could look at his reward. He could receive another of Prince JIng's secrets. Liu entered the system and was immediately greeted with an influx of notification windows. They nearly smothered him to death. What was going on? Didn't he just complete a quest? Shouldn't he be ready for the next? Why were there so many notifications? Liu wasn't in the mood to check them all. He checked the main quest progress first. Last night's Raging Fire had completed the Burn with Passion quest. The next step, Spread Your Seed with the Tyrant, was in progress. Spread your seeds? Surely that wasn't quite right. Spreading seeds meant continuing the family line, which meant having children, right? He was shocked and a little put off, and he hurried to read the description. Perhaps he misunderstood. Perhaps he and Prince JIng simply had to plant crops. Fortunately, the quest had a description this time, though it was only one line. Give birth to the tyrant's children. That's why you look at the notifications, Liu. Absolutely truffle. Liu was freaked out. Holy shit. This description might as well not exist. What did it mean, give birth to the tyrant's children? He was a man. Even if he was a fish, he was a male fish. What was he supposed to give birth with? The system was asking him to go against the laws of nature. No, why did the system even have such outrageous quests? Liu was so shocked his voice shook. System? What's going on? Why do I need to have children? The system responded in a low voice. User, please check last night's notifications. Liu no longer dared to ignore them. He hurriedly opened them all up. The notifications were actually all warnings. The one on the very bottom, which meant the one that came up first, was, the Burn with Passion quest is now complete. Warning, the user is about to enter the highest level of intimacy with the Tyrant. This will affect the subsequent missions. Please consider carefully. Liu thought back to when the first notification had popped up. It was when Prince JIng had pressed him into the red bedding and kissed him with mouthfuls of green plum wine. Wait, so that also counted? He didn't actually have to do it? But he wanted to. Who would stop at a time like that? Who could stop at a time like that? The second from the bottom. The next step, spread your seeds with the Tyrant, has begun. User, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. The third from the bottom. User, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. The fourth from the bottom. User, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. The fifth from the bottom. User, please confirm. The long string of notifications all contained the same line. It was clear how persistent the system was. But that wasn't right. If he had to consent, it wouldn't just make him give birth casually, right? So how did it advance to the next step? What had he done? Liu suddenly recalled that last night he was frustrated by the system's constant notifications, so he had accepted everything blindly. That seemed to be what when the system had quieted down too. So, he'd done this to himself? Holy fucking shit. This was way too much information at once. He was the one who had done this to himself? Realizing this, Liu went to look at the second most recent notification. It now read, "The next step, spreading your seed with the Tyrant, has now been started. Please select..." What the... Oh, okay, one of them fell. It sounded like skittering. Sorry. Please select the form you would like to complete the mission in. Number 1, fish. Number 2, human. Nani? The Burn with Passion quest had asked him to select a form too. What did this mean? Liu had a bad feeling. He immediately opened the most recent notification. The user has accepted the quest without making a selection. The default choice has been selected. Fish. User, please complete this quest in fish form. Liu finished reading the whole message, shaking. Complete the quest in fish form. Which meant giving birth as a fish. Okay, at least he didn't have to have a swollen belly as a human. No, he couldn't have a swollen belly as a fish either. Liu was vexed, feeling like he'd gone in circles. System, how am I supposed to give birth as a male fish? User, don't worry. The Moe Pet system can change the genes of the fish. Some male fish can get pregnant. The system certainly had no problem defying nature. It could give him secret special genes that make a male fish pregnant. All of this was making him dizzy. In this world, the system was God, the gold finger. He couldn't go against it. Liu made a last attempt. Even if some male fish could give birth, can humans and fish breed cross species? Even if a fish can give birth, will it give birth to a fish or a human? Don't worry, user. Just complete your mission. As your reward this time, transformation time will be doubled, and you will gain the ability to cancel your transformation. Sob. It's so over. Every time the system told him not to worry, it was definitely scamming him. What kind of bullshit quest was this? And the reward was exactly what he wanted. Couldn't he just get the reward without doing the quest? That's one sob. The reward can only be claimed after finishing the quest. Liu kept trying to comfort himself. The quest was already in progress, sure, but how could he get pregnant after just one time? Once is enough. The system seemed determined not to let him live and announced loudly, User, don't worry. You have the one shot and done skill. The first time will definitely be enough. What? He'd always wondered what the one shot and done skill was. So that was what it meant? The world spun before Liu's eyes. System, come out here, he yelled. I promise to beat you up until you give birth. He was ejected by the system before he could even claim his rewards from the last quest. Liu had experience now, and he knew protesting was useless. Nothing could stop the fish scamming system's quests. Wait, did this mean he was already pregnant? Liu couldn't hold back his gasp. He looked down fearfully at his slightly distended stomach. Was it fish food in there or fish roe? Prince JIng had been watching over the fish this whole time and noticed that after the fish came out of meditation, it seemed to become a little agitated. He touched the fish's back. What's wrong? Liu stared up at his handsome face. Before, he thought Prince JIng was handsome no matter how he looked at him, but now, all he could think about was the pregnancy. Stop! Help! I just want to do it! I didn't want to give birth! And that is how we are ending our stream tonight. What a way to end the first part of Book 3 of The Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. That was quite a spot to do it. I love Liu. He's ridiculous. Oh, as someone who never wants to be pregnant, this is low-key kind of terrifying. I mean, it would be. Like, he just wanted to have some sexy times with his, well, husband. Not that he kind of realized, maybe, that it's now officially his husband. And he's also a man, so that added in. But, yeah. It's not unreasonable that he's like, what do you mean I'm pregnant? System. Yeah. I could see that. I almost feel sorry for Liu, though. It's another case of you brought this upon yourself a little bit. Yeah. You didn't read the directions. Yeah. Yeah, he really should have checked the notifications. I mean, I get why he didn't in the moment. Like, let me just pop into the system real quick. Yeah, he's like 18, so he probably hasn't really thought about it. Fair point. But yeah, that's how we're starting book 3. So you can already tell it's going to be a wild ride. But yeah. We will be just doing our normal schedule. I don't think there's anything coming up that's going to disturb next few streams. We enter September next time. Yeah, no, I think Tuesday, normal Thursday for the next few. Yeah. Yay! Right. It is definitely off to a great start, and I'm glad everyone is enjoying the stream so far. I will see you all hopefully on Tuesday, and I hope those who are watching later that you enjoyed the first part of book 3 for the Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. And you are welcome. Thank you for coming to the stream. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.